You ever watch a coach lose a game, then immediately sprint to the post-game mic to throw literally everyone but herself under the bus? Because if you tuned into the Indiana Fever's recent loss, you witnessed a masterclass in blame deflection, brought to you by none other than head coach Stephanie White. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. This wasn't just a bad night. This was a disaster. A meltdown. A how did we get beat by them type of game. A 14-point loss to a team with a losing record. And sure, the refereeing wasn't perfect. We'll get to that. But let's be clear. The Stripes didn't blow a double-digit lead. They didn't forget how to rotate on defense. They didn't make bizarre substitutions or run baffling offensive sets. That honor belongs solely to Coach White. And yet, she's out here pointing fingers at the refs, the players, the injuries, the alignment of the planets. Basically everything except her own clipboard. Let's talk about that. Because the most infuriating part of the whole ordeal wasn't just watching the Fever collapse. It was watching White shrug it off like she had no role in it. This is a coach who should be setting the tone, making adjustments, motivating her team, and managing rotations. Instead, she's listing turnovers, missed shots, and injuries like it's a Yelp review of someone else's team. Oh, the point guard rotation was disrupted by injuries? Newsflash, that's your job to adjust. That's what coaching is. And if your only plan goes out the window the second your starting PG gets banged up, maybe you never had a real plan to begin with. Let's break it down. The Fever came out flat. Again, that's not an anomaly anymore. That's a pattern. A pattern that screams not ready, not focused, and not led. They looked like they hadn't prepared for Dallas at all. No intensity. No defensive discipline. No offensive structure. Just ISO ball, broken sets, and long rebounds flying the other way. And instead of owning it, Stephanie White basically pulled out the, it's not me, it's some playbook. Turnovers? That's on the players. Defensive breakdowns? Also on the players. Missed rotations, no offensive flow. Empty possessions? Yep, apparently just bad execution. But let's pause for a second, because at some point we need to ask, what exactly is Stephanie White coaching? If her job isn't to prepare the team, adjust strategy, and hold herself accountable for execution, what is she doing? Because from the outside looking in, it feels like she's just waiting for the team to figure out on their own, and then blaming them when they don't. And can we talk about that zone defense? Oh my God, the 3-2 zone that got lit up like it was 4th of July? That wasn't just a tactical error. That was coaching malpractice. Switching to a soft zone against a Dallas team that thrives on ball movement and wing shooting? What exactly were we hoping for there? A miracle. It was embarrassing. Like, I'm squinting through my fingers embarrassing. You don't go to a zone that's soft unless you're actively trying to get cooked. And sure enough, Dallas feasted. They spaced the floor, found the gaps, and basically ran a shooting drill on national television. It was giving we have no defensive identity. It was giving panic button. And most of all, it was giving we don't know what we're doing. And Stephanie White just let it ride. That's the part that stings. No in-game adjustments. No switching back to man. No timeout to reset. Just vibes. Just hope. Like maybe the same broken scheme that got you down 12 will magically work this time. Meanwhile, on the offensive end, a total mess. The ball movement was non-existent. The spacing was bad. The Fever kept forcing post-ups that haven't worked all season and were clearly not working tonight. And yet, they kept going back to that dry well like there was water in it. Aaliyah Boston is incredible. Don't get twisted. She's the future. But let's be real here. Her post touches are being run like it's 1999. Slow, stagnant, poorly timed. She's not being set up to succeed. She's being asked to play hero ball from the elbow, while 4 teammates stand around watching. And then there's Kelsey Mitchell. This is going to sting, but it needs to be said, the ball dominant. ISO-heavy offense that White keeps letting Mitchell run, it's killing the flow. Yes, Kelsey's a bucket. Yes, she can break down defenders. But when the offense lives and dies on whether she feels hot that night, it's a recipe for chaos. And that's on the coach to rein in. Because when Mitchell goes cold, which she did, you've got nothing else in the chamber. No plays, no movement, no backup plan, just more dribbling. And it's turning a talented roster into a disjointed mess. And somehow, Stephanie White's still in the post-game press conference talking about effort and execution like we're watching an entirely different game. Where's the accountability? Where's the coach saying, "This one's on me. I didn't have us ready"? Where's the humility? The leadership? Because right now, it feels like White's entire game plan is to survive the press conference without admitting any flaws. And I haven't even started on the Chloe BBY situation. Can someone explain to me, like I'm 5, why the most impactful bench player in the second quarter just got benched the entire second half? Chloe came in, sparked energy, hit a key shot, pushed the pace, and then vanished. You could feel the shift when she hit the floor. The ball started moving. The defense picked up. The team had a pulse. And then White pulled her like it was mandatory. That's not player development. That's sabotage. How are we supposed to believe you're experimenting with lineups or trying to find the right rotations when the one player who gave you momentum gets benched for the final 20 minutes? Oh, but let's blame the refs. Let's talk about a couple missed foul calls, as if that's why the team gave up uncontested layups for an entire quarter, as if that's why the offense stalled out, as if referees are the ones choosing to play half-hearted defense on the weak side or ignore the help rotation. Bad officiating is annoying, but it's not the reason you're getting embarrassed. The reason is the coaching. The reason is the game plan. The reason is Stephanie White. And look, I don't say that lightly. Coaching in the WNBA is no joke. These teams are talented. The media pressure is real, and the margin for error is razor thin. But what separates good coaches from great ones is the ability to say, "This loss is on me." And White, she's out here listing excuses like it's open mic night. The players are frustrated. The fans are frustrated. And White's still acting like she's just along for the ride. There's still time to turn this around. But it starts with accountability. It starts with White looking in the mirror and admitting her strategy is broken, that the system isn't working, that a coaching adjustment, not just a lineup tweak, is desperately needed. You've got talent on this roster. You've got Aaliyah Boston. You've got Kelsey Mitchell. You've got shooters. You've got young energy. But none of that matters if your game plan is broken and your coach refuses to fix it. At some point, the excuses run out. And if Stephanie White doesn't find a way to own these losses and fix what's broken, the season is going to keep spiraling. Because this latest loss, it wasn't just a bad night. It was a billboard-sized warning sign. And everyone saw it, except the person holding the clipboard. Your move, Coach White. Let's go even deeper. Because if you're still watching this Indiana Fever season unfold without gripping the arm of your chair in secondhand frustration, then either you've given up completely, or you're the most patient person alive. For the rest of us, we're watching a team that should be finding its rhythm spiral into disarray, and the person holding the steering wheel is pretending she's just along for the ride. Let's talk about leadership, or more specifically, the complete vacuum of it on the Indiana Fever's bench right now. Stephanie White isn't new to the league. She's not some interim assistant who accidentally got promoted and is just figuring out on the fly. She's been around this game. She's coached in this league before, which is what makes her performance and her post-game spin cycles even more maddening because we know she knows better. But somehow, we keep watching a version of the Fever that looks uncoached. That's the scariest part. This team has enough raw talent to be competitive. They're not the 2004 Pistons, but they don't need to be. They just need structure, discipline, a strategy. But what they're getting right now is chaos, and not the fun, fast-paced kind. The we don't know what play we're running kind. The why is no one closing out on shooters kind. The why is our best bench player glued to the pine kind. And again, let's be crystal clear. This is not a player problem. It is wild to see Stephanie White stand in front of Mike and run through a list of individual player mistakes like she's reading off a grocery list. Too many turnovers, missed defensive assignments, lack of urgency. Okay, cool. But who do you think is supposed to correct those things? Who do you think sets the tone for urgency? or holds players accountable when the same defensive mistakes happen again and again? The coach. When your team keeps coming out of the gate flat, game after game, that's not a player issue. That's not about energy. That's preparation. That's the locker room culture. That's a team that doesn't believe its coach is putting them in a position to win. And honestly, they're not wrong. Let's rewind back to that second quarter meltdown, the one where Dallas went on a ridiculous run, and the Fever just sat there like they were waiting for someone else to call timeout. Stephanie White didn't even flinch. No timeout, no defensive adjustment, no lineup shuffle, just silence. It's almost like she's waiting for the players to coach themselves through it. But that's not how this works. That's never how it works. A coach who won't intervene when the house is on fire isn't calm. They're negligent. And the Chloe BBY situation? It's not just a bad look. It's damning. Here's a player who came in, brought energy, made good decisions, and immediately changed the tempo. You could feel the spark. And then she disappeared. Like magic. Only instead of applause, fans were left asking, why did that just happen? It makes no sense. You've got a player giving you something different, something better, and instead of rewarding it, you bench her. For what? To stick with a rotation that's clearly not working? To honor some invisible hierarchy that says certain players get minutes no matter what? Newsflash. Nothing kills morale like that kind of favoritism. If players don't believe performance matters, if they think it's all pre-scripted, regardless of how the game is going, then why would they go all out? Why would they fight for minutes when the coach has clearly already made up her mind? Stephanie White is sending the worst possible message to her team. It doesn't matter how well you play. If you're not in my inner circle, you're not staying on the floor. That's how you lose a locker room. And let's talk about that locker room. You think those players don't notice what's happening? You think Aaliyah Boston doesn't feel the weight of being the franchise centerpiece but getting no help schematically? You think Kelsey Mitchell doesn't see the double standards and how her on-ball dominance is treated versus other players? These athletes aren't dumb. They know when they're not being set up to succeed. They know when their coach is throwing them under the bus in post-game interviews. They hear the tone. They hear the deflections. And they internalize it. You know what else they notice? The lack of accountability. The fact that no matter how many games they drop, how flat they come out, how incoherent the strategy is, Stephanie White never owns it. Not once have we seen her step up and say, that's on me. I didn't have them ready. I made the wrong call. I stuck with the wrong rotation. I coached a bad game. Nothing. Nada. Just a bunch of vague coach speak about execution and effort and fighting through adversity. Like we're all supposed to forget she's the one drawing up the plans. You know who takes accountability? Good leaders. You know who doesn't? Coaches who are afraid they've lost control and are too stubborn to admit it. And look, no one's saying coaching is easy. This league is full of smart coaches, fast offenses, and elite talent. You got to be sharp. You've got to be flexible. You got to coach every game, not just show up and hope your stars figure out. Right now, Stephanie White is coaching like she's watching from the front row with a soda in her hand. Meanwhile, this team is regressing. The chemistry looks worse every week. The body language is bad. The energy is inconsistent. And the belief, maybe the most dangerous thing to lose, is fading fast. And the fans? They're done with the excuses. They've shown up. They've supported this young core. They bought the jerseys. They watched the games. They believed in the rebuild. But watching this team spiral with no course correction in sight, it's insulting. We're watching winnable games slip through the cracks. Not because the Fever lack talent, but because they lack direction. And that falls squarely on the coach. Stephanie White can try to deflect all she wants. But the truth is catching up to her. The game plans aren't working. The in-game adjustments are non-existent. The rotations are baffling. The accountability is nowhere to be found. And if something doesn't change soon, it's not just this season that'll be a waste. It's the trust, the momentum, the entire project. Aaliyah Boston deserves better. Chloe BBY deserves better. This team deserves better. And right now, that better starts with one thing: accountability. Because until Stephanie White stops pointing fingers and starts owning her failures, this team will keep running in circles, burning talent, losing fans, and wasting a roster that's ready to compete if someone would just give them the map. So let's hear it. Is it time for a coaching change in Indiana? Should the front office step in? Or can Stephanie White turn this around? If she finally looks in the mirror, the Indiana Fever should not be this bad. There's too much talent on this roster to be dropping games in such humiliating fashion. Too many young, hungry, ready-to-break-out stars who are being misused, underutilized, and in some cases flat-out ignored. And the common denominator in every collapse? Stephanie White. Let's call this what it is. A coach trying to ride on her resume instead of actually doing the job. Because it's one thing to lose a game. It's another to lose games with zero adjustments, with the same exact flaws popping up every single time. Poor defense, no offensive rhythm, sloppy turnovers, bad rotations, and somehow, no one on the coaching staff seems alarmed. You'd think by now there'd be some urgency, a shift in tone, a serious moment of reflection. But nope, after every loss, we're fed the same bland commentary from White. We got to execute better. We're learning. We're dealing with adversity. Adversity? Sis, you're the adversity. Let's not act like the only issue is some bumps in the road. The Fever are getting outcoached on a weekly basis. Not just beat, out-strategized. And the worst part? There's no sign she even sees it happening. Let's break this down in simple terms. Defense. How many times are we going to watch the same broken zone defense get shredded before someone says, hey, maybe this isn't it? The 3-2 zone is not a one-size-fits-all fix. You can't keep running it against perimeter-heavy teams and expect it to magically work. And if you're going to run zone, you need communication. You need rotations. You need effort. None of that is happening. The wings are slow to recover. The top of the zone is getting split like a ripe melon, and the backside help is consistently late or non-existent. That's coaching. That's preparation. That's on Stephanie White and her staff for failing to drill fundamentals, and more importantly, failing to recognize when something isn't working. Then there's the issue of offensive identity, or rather, the complete absence of one. The Fever's offense is like watching 5 strangers get dropped on a court and told to just figure it out. There's no flow, no pacing, no off-ball movement, no set plays outside of a couple of predictable high-post actions, and some lazy pick-and-rolls. What's worse is the way White leans on individual talent instead of building a system. Kelsey Mitchell dribbling the air out of the ball while everyone else stands around? That's not offensive creativity. That's resignation. Aaliyah Boston, arguably the most valuable young post player in the league, is getting the most uninspired touches imaginable. No motion, no angles. Just dump it in and hope she creates something out of nothing. Imagine being one of the most dominant inside presences in college, transitioning to pros, and suddenly being treated like you're playing park ball with no spacing or support. Boston isn't failing. The system is failing her. And let's not pretend like this team doesn't have capable shooters. Lexi Ho, Grace Berger, Erica Wheeler, when she's rolling. They're weapons. There is spacing potential. But the ball never moves fast enough to take advantage of it. It's either slow post-ups or hero ball, and nothing in between. It's baffling. It's frustrating. And it all leads back to one glaring truth. Stephanie White is coaching a modern WNBA team like it's 2006. And then she has the nerve, the audacity, to blame the players for execution. No, coach. Execution starts with expectation. It starts with preparation. It starts with having a game plan that puts your players in positions to succeed. Right now, the only thing the Fever are executing is their own downfall. And let's revisit that Chloe BBY situation one more time, because if we're talking red flags, that one deserves a whole color guard team. When a bench player comes in, brings energy, makes an immediate impact, and then disappears from the second half like a ghost in an episode of Dateline, that's not strategy. That's ego. There is no on-court justification for benching a player who gave you your only real momentum of the game. The only explanation is that White didn't plan to use her and didn't want to veer off script. Even if the script was garbage, that's what's so infuriating. The refusal to pivot, the stubbornness. The obsession with sticking to pre-planned rotations, no matter how clearly they're not working. It screams, I don't trust my gut. Or worse, I don't trust my players. You can see it on their faces, too. The players know. They know when the coaching isn't helping. You can see it in the body language, in the way they hesitate, in the confusion during timeouts. You can see it in the way they don't react when White gets animated on the sidelines. They're tuning her out. And that disconnect, that's how teams fracture. Right now, this team looks like it's waiting for something to change. Something above them. And unless the front office steps in, they're going to be stuck in this purgatory all season. Because make no mistake, this isn't the WNBA from 10 years ago. This league is moving fast. New talent is coming in with every draft class. The fan base is expanding. The spotlight is growing. If you're not building something cohesive, you're getting left behind. And that's exactly what's happening to Indiana. They've got talent. They've got one of the brightest young stars in the game. They've got a loyal fan base desperate to see this team succeed. And yet, they're anchored by a coach who refuses to evolve, refuses to adjust, and most damning of all, refuses to take ownership. And at this point, that might be the only thing fans are asking for. Just once, we want to hear Stephanie White stand at the podium and say, I didn't do my job today. That's it. Not the refs made it tough. Not we missed some shots. Not we've got to clean up our turnovers. Just one honest moment of self-awareness that says, I need to be better because the players, they've taken enough hits. Publicly, physically, they've been thrown under the bus enough times that the tires have their names engraved. The fans, they've endured enough too. Every game is a masterclass in false hope, followed by predictable collapse. And the organization, they're sitting on a gold mine of potential, watching it slip away one poorly coached game at a time. So what's it going to take? Does a team need to lose by 30 before someone steps in? Does Aaliyah Boston need to start openly questioning strategy in post-game interviews? Do fans need to start booing during intros? Because it shouldn't take that. It should take accountability. And if Stephanie White isn't willing to take it, then someone else needs to take her place. Because right now, the Fever aren't being led. They're being managed, and poorly. Let us know your take. Is this coaching crisis beyond repair? Should the Fever hit reset before the season spirals even further? Who would you trust to lead this team forward?